Detective Morrison's office felt smaller than when I first walked in. The space compressed by the weight of evidence that had transformed my suspicions into criminal charges. The digital audio player sat between us on her metal desk, my own voice emerging from the speaker with crystalline clarity. The insurance payout is $2 million if she dies within the first year of the policy. My son's whispered response followed immediately. Captured by my phone from inside my cardigan pocket 3 weeks ago. Then we need to expedite things tonight. Increase her heart medication until she has cardiac arrest. Her pen stopped moving across the incident report as the recording continued, my daughter-in-law's voice joining the conspiracy with clinical precision. The digoxin will look natural in the autopsy, especially with her existing heart condition. Detective Morrison's expression hardened into the focused intensity of someone who had heard enough confessions to recognize premeditated murder when it wore the mask of family caregiving. Their loving devotion had been performance art. My phone's voice memo app had documented the rehearsal for attempted homicide. Disguised as filial duty, I explained how their sudden interest in managing my medications had finally made horrifying sense when I discovered the extra pills hidden in my son's jacket. Pocket pills that matched my prescription. Bottles but shouldn't have been missing from my daily organizer. The detective's questions were methodical. When did they start controlling my prescriptions? Which medications had they been adjusting? How many times had I experienced unexplained dizzy spells and heart palpitations that coincided with their helpful medication management? Each answer painted a clearer picture of systematic poisoning disguised as elder care. The recording equipment showed 43 minutes of captured conversations spanning 3 weeks. Each file timestamped and automatically uploaded to my cloud storage. Detective Morrison photographed my phone screen showing the evidence dates, then asked me to sign a formal statement authorizing the recordings to be used in criminal prosecution. Their whispered murder plans had become prosecutable evidence. Their assumed privacy about my death becoming public record in a homicide investigation. I signed my name with steady handwriting that proved their medication manipulation hadn't yet achieved the cognitive impairment. They had been planning this recording session. Represented more than evidence collection. It was the climax of 3 weeks of careful documentation that began when I first noticed my pill counts were wrong and my symptoms didn't match my medical history, leading me to suspect that love and murder could occupy the same house when life insurance transforms elderly parents into financial opportunities rather than family members. The collapse began with kindness, my son arriving at my doorstep with suitcases and explanations about business failures and crushing debt, but wrapped in concern about my upcoming surgery recovery. His wife followed with casseroles and smiles, both of them insisting on staying just until Mom gets back on her feet. While their creditors called my house phone at all hours, they transformed my post-surgical vulnerability into their opportunity, offering to manage my medications while I healed, organizing my pill bottles with the efficiency of people who had been planning this level of control longer than they admitted. Their concerned efficiency contrasted sharply with my growing weakness that didn't match Dr. Patterson's recovery timeline, where my surgeon had predicted steady improvement. I experienced escalating symptoms that made no medical sense. Dizzy spells when I stood too quickly, heart palpitations during normal activities, and memory lapses that had never existed before their arrival. They documented each incident with worried faces and careful notes, building a medical narrative that painted my competence as declining while their necessity increased. The medication management system they installed felt comprehensive and caring, with pill organizers labeled by day and time. But my body responded with symptoms that contradicted the prescribed healing process. They took over my pharmacy visits, doctor's appointments, and meal preparation, always with explanations about ensuring proper dosages and avoiding drug interactions. Each helpful intervention coincided with new physical problems that made me more dependent on their presence and less capable of questioning their methods or managing my own care. My daughter-in-law's nursing background provided medical authority for their decisions about my health. While my son's business failures provided financial motivation for their sudden devotion to my well-being, they spoke about my medications with professional confidence, adjusting dosages based on my reported symptoms and consulting with each other in hushed conversations that I wasn't meant to overhear. Their whispered medical discussions sounded like care but felt like conspiracy, especially when my symptoms worsened after their consultations. The prescriptions multiplied under their management. Heart medication for palpitations that hadn't existed before surgery, blood pressure pills for readings that spiked during their visits, and anti-anxiety medication for the fear I began experiencing about my declining health. They filled each prescription with the diligence of devoted children, bringing home bottles that looked correct but left me feeling worse than the condition they were supposed to treat. My recovery became regression under their medical supervision. The turning point came when I found extra pills hidden in my son's jacket pocket during my slow walk to the kitchen for water pills that matched my prescription bottles but weren't supposed to be missing from my weekly organizer, making me realize that their medication management involved more pills going in than coming out. The bathroom door clicked shut at 11:47 p.m. while their voices drifted through the thin walls. Medical terminology mixing with murder planning and whispers they thought were private. I held my phone against the wall with trembling fingers, the voice memo app recording their conversation with digital precision that would later translate their whispered conspiracy into prosecutable evidence. My daughter-in-law's nursing background provided clinical authority for their discussion about which heart medication dosage would trigger natural-looking cardiac arrest, while my son's desperation about their financial collapse provided the motive for expediting my death tonight. Their whispered murder planning contrasted sharply with my silent evidence collection, each word they spoke being preserved in digital format with timestamps that would prove premeditation in any courtroom. The recording captured specific details that revealed months of careful preparation, increasing my digoxin levels until my heart stopped, explaining my declining health to doctors as natural progression of my condition, and their celebration about the $2 million life insurance policy they had convinced me to purchase 6 months earlier. When I was still trusting their financial advice, I photographed each pill bottle they had been manipulating, noting the dosage changes they had made without medical authorization and documenting the extra medications they were secretly adding to my daily regimen. The prescription labels showed my name and original dosages, but the pills inside had been replaced with higher-strength versions that would achieve fatal blood levels within days. My phone's camera captured the evidence with metadata that would prove when I discovered their tampering, creating a timeline that connected their murder planning to the physical evidence of systematic poisoning. The medicine cabinet revealed the scope of their deception. Bottles labeled for my prescribed dosages containing pills that were double or triple strength. Additional medications I had never been prescribed mixed into containers bearing my name, and empty bottles that should have been full according to the refill dates. Each photograph included the prescription information, pill counts, and dates of their medication manipulation, building a visual case that would support the audio evidence of their attempted murder. My hands shook as I documented their poisoning methodology, but my phone remained steady, capturing clear images of each tampered prescription, alongside the authentic bottles I had hidden in my bedroom months earlier. When I first suspected their medication management was making me sicker instead of better. The contrast between prescribed dosages and administered amounts would provide forensic evidence that supported their recorded confessions about expediting my death through cardiac medication manipulation. Their conversation moved to backup plans and timeline acceleration, my daughter-in-law suggesting insulin injections if the heart medication took too long, while my son worried about maintaining their caregiving performance until the insurance payout arrived. I recorded 43 minutes of premeditated murder planning that night, each minute time-stamped and automatically uploaded to cloud storage that would preserve their words even if they discovered my phone, armed with audio evidence of their conspiracy and photographic proof of their poisoning methods. I realized this wasn't family caregiving gone wrong. It was attempted homicide disguised as filial devotion. And the evidence in my phone could save my life by ending their freedom. Detective Sarah Morrison's badge caught the fluorescent light as she reviewed my phone recordings with the methodical attention of someone who had learned that elder abuse disguised as family care requires different investigative protocols than stranger violence. Her notepad filled with timestamps and medication names while my recorded evidence played through the police station speakers, transforming their whispered murder. Conspiracy into prosecutable criminal conduct with case number 2024EA1847. She paused the audio at the section where my daughter-in-law discussed digoxin, levels that would trigger cardiac arrest, then looked at me with the focused intensity of someone who recognized attempted homicide when it wore the mask of medical management. There, confidence in my declining health narrative contrasted sharply with law enforcement's immediate recognition of systematic poisoning, patterns that followed textbook elder abuse methodology. Detective Morrison explained how medication manipulation cases required forensic analysis to document the poisoning effects, coordination with adult protective services to ensure victim safety, and medical evaluation to establish the correlation between administered drugs and observed symptoms. She photographed each tampered pill bottle I had documented, creating evidence chain of custody forms that would preserve the physical proof for criminal prosecution. The detective connected me with elder abuse prosecutor James Chen within 2 hours, his office specializing in cases where family relationships provided cover for financial or physical crimes against vulnerable seniors. Chen listened to my recordings twice, then explained that recorded murder conspiracy carries first-degree attempted murder charges regardless of family relationships, with additional charges for elder abuse, insurance fraud, and medication tampering that could result in decades of prison time. Their recorded planning had transformed them from concerned caregivers into criminal defendants facing felony prosecution. Detective Morrison arranged immediate forensic analysis of my medications through the state crime lab, requesting toxicology panels that would document the dangerous drug levels in my system and correlate them with the tampered prescriptions found in my son's possession. She coordinated with adult protective services to establish emergency protective custody protocols, ensuring my safety while preserving the chain of evidence that connected their recorded confessions to the physical poisoning methodology. Each pill bottle would be fingerprinted, each recording timestamped, and each medical symptom documented as evidence of their systematic attempt to murder me for insurance money. The prosecutor's office filed emergency protective orders while Detective Morrison arranged medical evaluation at the county hospital, where blood tests would document the dangerous medication levels that corroborated my recorded evidence of their poisoning attempts. Chen explained that elder abuse prosecution requires comprehensive documentation. The recordings provided intent, the tampered medications provided means, and the insurance policy provided motive for a case that would be prosecuted as premeditated murder disguised as family caregiving. Detective Morrison's first step was ensuring my immediate safety through emergency protective custody while preserving every piece of evidence for criminal prosecution that would protect other vulnerable elders from similar family predation. Within 24 hours of my police station visit, I was admitted to County General Hospital under Protective Custody Order PO 202-42-1847, surrounded by security cameras that documented my every medication administration while toxicology teams drew blood samples that would preserve forensic evidence of my son's systematic poisoning attempt. The secure medical wing felt safer than my own home had in months, with nurses who monitored my prescriptions instead of manipulating them, and doctors who explained each treatment instead of secretly administering drugs I had never been prescribed. Their panic when they couldn't locate me contrasted sharply with my relief at medical supervision that would finally document the dangerous medication levels they had been using to slowly murder me. Blood work results arrived within 12 hours, revealing dangerous concentrations of digoxin, metoprolol, an insulin that would have caused fatal heart failure within days if Detective Morrison hadn't intervened when she did. The toxicology report showed medication levels 3 to 4 times higher than therapeutic ranges. With drugs I had never been prescribed mixed into my system through their careful poisoning regimen. Each test result carried timestamps and chain of custody documentation that would transform their recorded murder conspiracy into prosecutable attempted homicide charges, backed by forensic medical evidence. Forensics analysis of my confiscated pill bottles revealed the full scope of their tampering. Prescription labels that matched my name but contained pills of different strengths. Additional medications mixed into bottles bearing incorrect names. And dosage modifications that would have been lethal within the week. Laboratory technicians photographed each tampered bottle, documented the pill counts against prescription records, and tested individual pills to identify the specific drugs my son and daughter-in-law had been secretly administering. The evidence chain connected their recorded planning to the physical means of murder through systematic medication manipulation. The hospital's security cameras recorded their attempts to visit me, capturing their frantic conversations in the parking lot when staff refused them access to my room under protective custody protocols. They returned 3 times in 2 days, each visit documented by timestamp and video evidence that demonstrated their continued intent to complete the murder plot even after law enforcement intervention. Their persistence in trying to reach me while I was under medical supervision provided additional evidence of ongoing criminal conspiracy rather than genuine family concern. Medical intervention saved my life through supervised medication withdrawal that gradually reduced the dangerous drug levels to therapeutic ranges, while documentation teams preserved evidence of the poisoning effects that corroborated my recorded audio. Evidence. Dr. Patricia Holbrook, the attending physician, testified that the medication levels found in my blood work would have caused cardiac arrest within 72 hours without medical intervention, making their timing precise enough to trigger death before the poison could be detected in routine autopsy procedures. The medical evidence transformed my suspicions into prosecutable attempted murder charges with documented intent through recorded confessions and proven means through forensic toxicology that would ensure their prosecution carried the full weight of premeditated homicide disguised as family caregiving. Police surveillance of my home began at 6 a.m. the morning after my protective custody, with Detective Morrison's team positioned to document my son and daughter-in-law's activities while they believed I was missing and vulnerable. The court-authorized wiretaps recorded their panicked conversations about finding Mom before she talks to anyone, while hidden cameras captured them searching through my belongings and destroying evidence they had left behind. During months of medication manipulation, their belief in controlling the narrative contrasted sharply with law enforcement's systematic documentation of ongoing criminal conspiracy, each word they spoke being preserved as evidence of continued murder plotting even after police intervention. Within 12 hours, surveillance teams photographed them disposing of medication bottles in 3 separate dumpsters across town, bleaching surfaces throughout my house to eliminate fingerprint evidence, and burning documents in the backyard fire pit that they thought contained proof of their poisoning methodology. The disposal pattern revealed criminal consciousness of guilt. While forensic teams recovered enough evidence from the destroyed materials to reconstruct their timeline of systematic medication tampering, each destruction attempt was documented with timestamps and GPS coordinates that would prove obstruction of justice charges. In addition to attempted murder, the wiretaps captured their discussion of backup murder methods when they realized their heart medication plan had been discovered, with my daughter-in-law suggesting insulin injections that would be harder to detect in autopsy procedures. Their internet search history revealed queries for undetectable poisons, medication overdose detection methods, and natural causes death certificates, creating a digital trail of premeditated murder. Research that corroborated their recorded confessions. Detective Morrison's team documented each online search with screenshots and metadata that would demonstrate continued criminal planning even after police intervention. Most damaging was their contact with another insurance company about increasing my policy coverage. Recorded conversations revealing their frustration that the $2 million policy wasn't sufficient for their financial needs and debt obligations. They discussed timing the murder differently to maximize insurance payouts, with calculations about compound interest and estate taxes that showed financial planning for my death rather than concern for my health. The insurance fraud investigation expanded to include multiple companies and policies they had convinced me to purchase over the past year. Surveillance footage from my home's security system, which they had forgotten about during their evidence destruction, showed them preparing insulin syringes and researching injection sites that would avoid detection. During medical examination, the recordings captured specific medical terminology and dosage calculations that proved premeditation beyond spontaneous family conflict, elevating their charges from elder abuse to first-degree attempted murder with planning that spanned months rather than moments. Their cover-up attempts provided prosecutors with additional charges of evidence tampering, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit murder, strengthening the case beyond simple elder abuse into a comprehensive criminal prosecution that would ensure decades of prison time for their systematic attempt to murder their way out of financial problems through life insurance fraud, disguised as loving family care. The district attorney's office filed first-degree attempted murder charges under case number CR 202-40847, with supporting documentation that transformed my family's whispered murder conspiracy into prosecutable criminal conduct backed by forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and medical testimony. Prosecutor James Chen assembled an evidence portfolio spanning 3 months of systematic poisoning. My recorded conversations capturing premeditation, toxicology reports showing fatal medication levels that would have killed me within days, and digital forensics from their devices revealing research into untraceable poisons and insurance fraud procedures. Their public shock at criminal charges contrasted sharply with the overwhelming evidence portfolio that made denial impossible. Once forensic analysis corroborated every element of their recorded murder planning. Expert testimony from Dr. Patricia Holbrook, a forensic toxicologist, explained how their medication manipulation would have caused heart failure that appeared natural to unsuspecting medical examiners, making their poison methodologies sophisticated enough to avoid detection in routine autopsy procedures. The prosecution's timeline showed months of preparation that began with convincing me to increase my life insurance policy from $500,000 to $2 million, isolating me from outside medical care by controlling my doctor's appointments, and systematically poisoning me while documenting my declining health to establish a cover story for my anticipated death. Each phase of their plan demonstrated premeditation that elevated their charges from elder abuse to first-degree attempted murder with special circumstances. Their internet search history provided a digital trail of premeditated murder planning that corroborated their recorded confessions. Queries about medication overdose symptoms searched 2 weeks before they began manipulating my prescriptions. Heart attack versus poison detection research during my hospitalization. And inheritance tax avoidance explored while planning my death. The forensic computer analysis revealed deleted browser history that they had attempted to destroy, but which investigators recovered using specialized software that preserved timestamps and IP addresses linking the searches directly to their devices. Their online research showed criminal planning that spanned months, not moments of family desperation. Financial analysis revealed the depth of their insurance fraud conspiracy, with documentation showing they had already contacted the insurance company about expediting claim procedures, planning to file death benefits immediately after my anticipated demise within the policy's first-year double indemnity period. Bank records showed they had researched estate liquidation procedures, contacted real estate appraisers about my home's value, and opened joint accounts titled Morrison Estate Management before filing any legal documents. That would have given them authority over my finances. Their financial planning for my death demonstrated motive beyond family debt, revealing calculated profit from premeditated murder. The case file expanded to include conspiracy charges when surveillance revealed they had involved my daughter-in-law's brother in their poison research, providing them with access to insulin and other medications through his pharmacy connections. Wiretapped conversations showed they had planned to recruit additional family members to provide alibis. During my final poisoning phase, creating a conspiracy network that would have made my murder appear like natural death surrounded by loving family care. Detective Morrison's investigation uncovered text messages between conspirators discussing optimal timing, witness preparation, and evidence disposal methods. Medical documentation from 3 different hospitals showed the progressive poisoning effects over time, with emergency room visits that I couldn't remember making, blood work that revealed dangerous medication interactions, and symptoms that matched systematic toxicology poisoning rather than natural health decline. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, an emergency medicine specialist, testified that my medical presentation was consistent with deliberate medication manipulation designed to cause gradual system failure that would appear consistent with age-related health deterioration to medical professionals not looking for poisoning. The evidence was so comprehensive that their attorney advised plea negotiations rather than risking trial. Conviction for premeditated murder with special circumstances, which could have carried life imprisonment without parole in addition to elder abuse, insurance fraud, and conspiracy charges that would have ensured they never experienced freedom again after attempting to murder their way out of financial problems through life insurance fraud, disguised as loving family caregiving. The courtroom gallery held 43 spectators when Judge Martinez called case CR 202408847 to order. My family members seated in the front row behind the defendants' table where my son and daughter-in-law sat in their performance clothes, hands folded like prayer but eyes carrying the desperate mathematics of people calculating prison sentences instead of inheritance payouts. Prosecutor James Chen activated the audio system with practiced efficiency, my recorded evidence filling the courthouse speakers with digital clarity. That made their whispered murder conspiracy audible to family, friends, and media representatives who had gathered to witness justice decide between family concern and premeditated homicide. Their confident morning whispers evaporated when my voice emerged from the speakers, followed immediately by their recorded discussion about which heart medications would cause natural-looking cardiac arrest. My testimony lasted 97 minutes, my voice steady as I explained discovering their poisoning methodology while their defense attorneys struggled to find questions that wouldn't highlight additional evidence of systematic murder planning. I walked the jury through my evidence collection process, photographing tampered medication bottles, recording midnight conversations about expediting my death, and documenting symptoms that matched their recorded discussions about optimal timing for insurance payouts. The prosecutor presented evidence methodically, each exhibit building toward undeniable proof of premeditated attempted murder disguised as family caregiving. Audio recordings of murder planning, toxicology reports showing medication levels that would have been fatal within days, surveillance footage of evidence destruction, and digital forensics proving months of research into untraceable poisons. Their defense attorney faced the impossible task of explaining away recorded statements like increase the heart medication until she has cardiac arrest, and the insurance pays double if it happens. Within 6 months, their voices preserved with timestamps and metadata that proved premeditation beyond reasonable doubt. When Judge Martinez asked them directly to explain their recorded celebration about my anticipated death, they could only offer silence punctuated by legal technicalities about recording, consent, and family privacy that convinced no one in the courtroom. Their desperate attempts to claim misunderstanding and mental health defenses collapsed under the weight of forensic evidence that showed Methodical planning rather than spontaneous family. Crisis. The prosecution's expert witnesses testified with clinical precision about the poisoning methodology. Dr. Patricia Holbrook explaining how the medication manipulation would have caused heart failure that appeared natural. Detective Moritzen describing the surveillance footage of evidence destruction. And forensic computer specialist Maria Rodriguez presenting their internet search history that revealed months of research into medication, overdose detection, and inheritance tax avoidance. Each expert's testimony corroborated my recorded evidence, creating a comprehensive case that left no room for reasonable doubt about their systematic attempt to murder me for insurance money. When their defense attorney attempted to portray them as overwhelmed caregivers making medical mistakes. Prosecutor Chen played the recording where they celebrated the $2 million insurance payout and discussed timing my death to maximize their financial benefit. The courtroom listened in silence as their voices revealed the mathematical precision of their murder planning, complete with calculations about compound interest and estate liquidation procedures. Their financial motivation destroyed any pretense of family care, exposing attempted homicide disguised as loving devotion to an elderly parent whose death would solve their debt problems. Judge Martinez's ruling came with such. If you're using like a scanner, METNs, if you're using like a scanner app, and it's like you're gonna die. Like, look at this. I'll look at this. And we all know I've been exploring. And I've been exploring that way. I've solved their debt problems. If we love sublord slies with dem saluzavi. MEDD slaz. How we love si guess con with salai y salive sa wal si sticon with salai ev with you with si clay kadu we love alike kapi with ki side get ki we can unusual severity that reflected the premeditated nature of their crimes and the vulnerability of their elderly victim. Attempted murder in the first degree with special circumstances. Elder abuse causing great bodily injury. Insurance fraud. Conspiracy to commit murder. And obstruction of justice charges that would ensure decades in prison without possibility of parole, sending a clear message that the court system recognizes no family exception for systematic attempts to murder vulnerable seniors for financial gain disguised as caregiving concern. Judge Martinez's gavel fell with finality that echoed through the courthouse at 3:47 p.m., sealing sentences that would ensure my son and daughter-in-law spent the prime years of their remaining lives documenting their daily activities to correctional officers instead of poison researchers. 25 years for attempted murder in the first degree with special circumstances. Additional consecutive time for elder abuse causing great bodily injury, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder sentences that totaled 43 years in state prison without possibility of parole for the first 15 years. Their earlier authority over my medical care had transformed into their current status as convicted felons, banned from elder caregiving. Their names permanently entered into abuse registries. That would prevent employment in any health care or senior services capacity. The court ordered full restitution for medical expenses totaling $47,000. Seized their joint assets to prevent them from profiting from their attempted murder through any remaining financial accounts, and mandated comprehensive psychological evaluation to determine future threat levels to elderly family members or potential caregiving victims. Detective Morrison testified that asset forfeiture would recover the down payments they had made on luxury vehicles, using money stolen from my accounts while poisoning me, ensuring their attempted murder generated only debt and imprisonment rather than financial gain. Judge Martinez emphasized that crimes against vulnerable elders carry enhanced penalties, specifically designed to deter family members who mistake inheritance planning for murder methodology. My life insurance company canceled their beneficiary status and flagged them in insurance fraud. Prevention databases that would prevent them from purchasing policies on elderly relatives in the future, while Adult Protective Services added them to national abuse registries. That would alert potential employers about their conviction for systematic elder abuse. The court's victim impact statement required them to listen, while I explained how their poisoning attempts had taught me that love and murder can occupy the same household when financial desperation meets life insurance opportunity, and how their sentences would protect other vulnerable elders from similar family predation disguised as caregiving concern. Their defense attorneys' final motion for reduced sentences met Judge Martinez's response that attempted murder of elderly family members represents a particularly heinous form of domestic violence that exploits trust, relationships, and physical vulnerability for financial gain. The court noted that their systematic poisoning methodology demonstrated premeditation spanning months. Their evidence destruction showed consciousness of guilt, and their continued attempts to access me during protective custody revealed ongoing criminal intent that justified maximum sentencing under California elder abuse statutes. Lifetime restraining orders prohibit any contact with me or other elderly family members, violations of which would constitute additional felony charges. Walking out of the courthouse into afternoon sunlight that felt warmer than any weather had in months, I realized this legal victory represented more than personal justice. It was protection for other vulnerable elders who might have become their future victims if their poison methodology had succeeded in making my death appear natural enough to avoid investigation and prosecution. 2 years after my son's conviction, I unlocked the Elder Justice Coalition conference room every Tuesday morning, brewing coffee for seniors who arrive carrying questions about medication management and suspicious family behaviors that mirror my own near-murder experience. My desk holds training materials developed from my case files, audio recordings that teach law enforcement officers to recognize family murder conspiracy disguised as elder care, court transcripts that help prosecutors understand the forensic evidence needed to convict attempted homicide by medication manipulation. Their attempt to murder me for insurance money had become my opportunity to empower other vulnerable elders through awareness and documentation that could save lives through early detection and proper evidence collection. Detective Morrison uses my recorded evidence as training material for elder abuse units across 3 states, playing the audio of my son's murder, planning to demonstrate how premeditation sounds when it wears the mask of family concern. Margaret Chen incorporates my case into her continuing legal education seminars, walking attorneys through the evidence collection process that transformed whispered murder conspiracy into prosecutable criminal charges carrying decades of prison time. My experience has become case study number 47 in the Elder Law Practice Manual, complete with exhibits and procedural timelines that show other attorneys how to build winnable cases from manipulated medications and recorded family conversations about expediting elderly deaths. I keep copies of the court transcripts and audio recordings not as revenge trophies, but as educational tools that demonstrate how family caregiving can mask premeditated murder and how proper evidence collection transforms suspicious deaths into prosecuted crimes. The medication management system I developed helps seniors track pill counts, photograph prescription bottles, and document physical symptoms that might indicate poisoning attempts by trusted family members. Each workshop participant receives a pocket notebook for recording medication times, dosages, and physical reactions, along with instructions for secure cloud storage that preserves evidence even if family members confiscate phones or destroy documentation. Speaking at senior centers across the state, I teach audiences that love and murder can coexist in the same household when financial desperation meets life insurance opportunity, and that competent elders have rights that families cannot simply inherit through proximity or assumption. My presentations include actual photographs from my evidence collection, tampered pill bottles, forged signatures, and surveillance footage that shows how systematic elder abuse operates within families that appear devoted to outside observers. Each audience learns that modern smartphones can record evidence with timestamps and metadata that survive in court, that toxicology tests can prove poisoning months after the attempt, and that attempted murder charges apply to family members regardless of their relationship to the victim. The workshops focus on recognizing warning signs that I missed initially. Family members who suddenly become interested in managing prescriptions, gradual isolation from outside medical care, and insurance policy changes that occur during health crises. Participants practice using voice memo apps to record suspicious conversations. Learn how to photograph medication bottles with proper lighting for evidence preservation. And understand chain of custody requirements that make documentation admissible in criminal prosecution. For anyone suspecting medication, manipulation, or unexplained health decline while family members control prescriptions, I emphasize that evidence collected properly can transform attempted murder into prosecuted felony charges. The court system recognizes no family exception for premeditated murder. And my case proves that documentation defeats deception when vulnerable elders refuse to disappear quietly. Into other people's financial plans? My last year marked the end of my vulnerability. Their first hearing marked the beginning of consequences that protect both current victims and future targets of elder financial abuse disguised as loving care, ensuring that my near murder becomes prevention education that saves. Other seniors from family members who mistake inheritance planning for homicide methodology.